helmet.
And it's giving your child 6 through 12 a chance to become a kickoff kid.
A dramatic entrance, an unorthodox thrower, and an electrifying career can be said of this former NFL great, but it wasn't all easy for him to get there. Philip Rivers was one of the best passers of his era, yet at the same time, he's one of the most overlooked players in recent NFL history. While it is not often discussed, he was among the top talents in the golden era of quarterbacks, playing alongside quarterbacks like Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, Aaron Rodgers, and Drew Brees led to him playing in their shadows. Today, we break down Rivers' football life from high school until his NFL retirement to answer the overarching question of how good he actually was. Rivers was born on December 8, 1981 in Decatur, Alabama. From an early age, it was clear that a young Philip Rivers was passionate about football, starting his playing career in 7th grade. He chose the number 17, the same number his dad wore during his playing days. After his father got the head coaching job at Athens High School, Rivers transferred there and served as the team's starting quarterback. In his senior year, he proved himself as one of the best passers in the state of Alabama. Despite his success as a quarterback in high school, the prestigious colleges in his home state of Alabama did not view him as a starting quarterback for their schools. Philip Rivers ultimately decided to play football at North Carolina State under head coach Chuck Amato, who offered Rivers a better opportunity to compete as a quarterback. At that time, NC State was just okay. He began his freshman season in 2000 as NC State's starting quarterback and finished the season throwing for 3,054 yards, 25 touchdowns, and 10 interceptions. He led the Wolfpack to an 8-4 record, ending the year with a 38-30 win over Minnesota in the Micron PC Bowl. The following year, Rivers took a little slump in his sophomore season, throwing nearly 50 fewer passes. Despite this, he still put up a respectable 2,586 yards, 16 touchdowns, and 7 interceptions. NC State had a 7-5 record, losing to Pittsburgh in the Tangerine Bowl by a final score of 34-19. Rivers broke out in his junior year, recording 3,353 yards, 20 touchdowns, and 10 interceptions, while leading the Wolfpack to an 11-3 record. This season, they made a trip to the Gator Bowl, where they took down 11th-ranked Notre Dame by a final score of 28-6. He ended his collegiate career with his best season yet. Rivers was named the 2003 ACC Offensive Player of the Year and the 2003 ACC Player of the Year. He finished the year throwing for 4,491 yards, 34 touchdowns, and 7 interceptions, setting or tying career best in all 3 categories. Despite this incredible year from Rivers, NC State finished the year with an 8-5 record. Rivers finished his time at NC State with a dominant 56-26 win over Kansas in the Tangerine Bowl. His collegiate chapter ended on a high note, as all sights looked towards the NFL draft. Now, this is where it gets messy. How high would Philip Rivers go in the draft? Pro scouts were very high on Rivers following his standout senior season at NC State. Regardless, the 2004 draft class was loaded with talent. The Chargers had the first pick of the draft, but it wasn't Rivers' name that was announced.
The San Diego Chargers select Eli Manning, quarterback, Mississippi.
The Chargers and GM A.J. Smith first chose Eli Manning, but the Manning family did not want Eli to play for the San Diego Chargers. Archie Manning made this known publicly prior to the draft, but the Chargers selected Eli regardless. The owners snapped back, saying that Eli would either have to play for the team or would have to sit out the year. But wait, the New York Giants and their GM Ernie Accorsi wanted Eli. If they couldn't land Eli, they were fine settling for Ben Roethlisberger. Everyone knew Eli and the Mannings did not want to be in San Diego. So Accorsi took a chance. He believed the Chargers' second quarterback choice was Philip Rivers, so the Giants, with the 4th pick, drafted Philip Rivers with the hopes of persuading the Chargers to swap quarterbacks. But would the risk work? Accorsi called A.J. Smith and the Chargers and made an offer. The Chargers accepted a deal that sent Eli Manning for Philip Rivers and multiple draft picks, a 2004 third-round pick, a 2005 first-round pick, and a 2005 fifth-round pick. The Manning drama came to a close. Both teams had their quarterbacks, and Philip Rivers was just excited to play in the NFL, but it wouldn't be right away. Even though Rivers was taken with the top 5 pick, it would take him some time before he was given the chance to start. With Drew Brees already established as the team's starting quarterback, Rivers was forced to wait patiently before he was given a chance to put his talents on full display. He only played in 4 games in his first 2 years in the league before Brees left San Diego to sign with Sean Payton and the New Orleans Saints.
All right, Philip, we're ready.
Philip Rivers had his first career start in Week 1 of the 2006 season, and he immediately hit the ground running, throwing for 3,388 yards, 22 touchdowns, and 9 interceptions. This earned him a spot in the Pro Bowl. To put the cherry on top of his incredible first season as a starter, Rivers led the Chargers to a 14-2 record. Despite the dominant season, they did not last long in the playoffs, being narrowly defeated by Tom Brady and the Patriots by a final score of 24-21. This was still an amazing season for a first-year starter. He took a bit of a step back in the 2007 season, finishing the year with 3,152 yards, 21 touchdowns, and 15 interceptions. The Chargers still had a very solid year, ending the regular season with a record of 11-5. They fared better in the postseason, taking down the Tennessee Titans by a score of 17-6 and the Indianapolis Colts in the divisional round by a final score of 28-24. But for the second straight season, they were sent home by Brady and the Patriots. This time, the matchup came in the AFC Championship, and New England won by a final score of 21-12. In 2008, Rivers took a huge step up individually, having his career's first 4,000-yard passing season. He recorded 4,009 yards, 34 touchdowns, and 11 interceptions. Despite his individual success, the Chargers finished the regular season with an 8-8 record, barely sneaking into the playoffs. They took on the Indianapolis Colts in the wild-card round in the postseason. They won 23-17 in an overtime thriller against Peyton Manning. However, their run came to an end into the divisional round, falling to the Pittsburgh Steelers by a score of 35-24. The following season, Rivers made a return to the Pro Bowl on the back of a 4,254-yard, 28-touchdown, and 9-interception season. He also led the Chargers to a 13-3 record. Along with his Pro Bowl nod, Rivers also finished third in the MVP voting. Despite the strong showing in the regular season, San Diego was eliminated by the New York Jets in the divisional round by a final score of 17-14. In 2010, Rivers was one of the top passers that the league had to offer, throwing for 4,710 yards, 30 touchdowns, and 14 interceptions, leading the league in passing yards. He was once again named to the Pro Bowl and led the Chargers to a 9-7 record. Even with the winning record, it was not enough to make the postseason. The following season, San Diego did not fare much better, finishing the regular season with an 8-8 record. Despite the lack of team success, Rivers still had a very solid year, throwing for 4,624 yards, 27 touchdowns, and 20 interceptions. He once again was named to the Pro Bowl. In 2012, Rivers ended the season with 3,606 yards, 26 touchdowns, and 15 interceptions. In 2013, he finished the regular season with 4,478 yards, 32 touchdowns, and 11 interceptions. Rivers also led the league in completion percentage at 69.5%. This was enough for him to make a return to the Pro Bowl and take home the Comeback Player of the Year. In addition, the Chargers returned to the playoffs with a 9-7 record. They took down the Cincinnati Bengals 16-10 in the wild-card round. However, they ran into a tough Denver Broncos team in the second round and fell by a final score of 24-17. In 2014, Rivers had another strong showing, passing for 4,286 yards, 31 touchdowns, and 18 interceptions. The Chargers once again had a 9-7 record, but it was not enough to earn a playoff berth. Things began to head downhill for the Chargers in 2015. Despite a good season from Rivers, in which he threw for a career-high 4,792 passing yards, 29 touchdowns, and 13 interceptions, San Diego struggled, falling to a 4-12 record. It did not get much better the following season. The Chargers ended the year 5-11. Although the Chargers returned to form in 2017, 2017, finishing the year with a 9-7 record, they were still snubbed from the playoffs. Rivers had another strong passing season, throwing for 4,515 yards, 28 touchdowns, and 10 interceptions, earning him a spot in the Pro Bowl. In 2018, their 4-year playoff drought came to an end after Rivers led them to a 12-4 record. He had another 4,000-plus yard season, 32 touchdowns, and 12 interceptions, earning his career's final Pro Bowl selection. In the postseason, they took down the Baltimore Ravens in the wildcard round 23-17. However, they were once again bested by the New England Patriots, this time by a final score of 41-28. In 2019, Rivers played what would be his final year with the Chargers. They finished the year with a 5-11 record. An aging Rivers struggled with turnovers, throwing 20 interceptions. Although he threw 4,615 yards and 23 touchdowns, the chapter was ending. On February 10, 2020, Philip Rivers and the Chargers mutually agreed to part ways. Rivers would enter free agency for the first time in his career. On March 21, 2020, Rivers signed a 1-year, $25 million deal with the Indianapolis Colts. At the age of 39, Philip Rivers led the Colts to an 11-5 record. He returned to form through the air, finishing the season with 4,169 yards, 24 touchdowns, and 11 interceptions. What's more impressive is that Rivers played through about half the season with a ruptured plantar plate. This man was a tough competitor. In what would end up being his final game in the league, the Colts took on the Buffalo Bills in the wild-card round. While they gave them an incredible fight, Indianapolis fell by a final score of 27-24. On January 20, 2021, Philip Rivers announced his retirement from the NFL as a Charger after 17 seasons, saying, "It's just time. It's just right." Rivers had an incredible career. He ended his time in the league with an outstanding 63,440 yards, 421 touchdowns, and 209 interceptions. He earned many awards but fell short of a Super Bowl. Similar to Dan Marino, just because one player misses out on a Lombardi doesn't disqualify him from being talked about as a great player. What were your favorite Philip Rivers moments? You think he will be a first-ballot Hall of Famer? How come Rivers and the Chargers weren't able to win at all? Let us know in the comments. Rivers' longevity and tenacity will forever be remembered. You could never count him out of a game, and he was as fierce as they come. Thank you for watching The Halftime Show.